In December 1935, on a steamliner crossing the Atlantic Ocean, in the middle of a game of ping pong, Charles Wilmers approached Cecilia Eitingon, two remarkable people from remarkable families at a remarkable moment in time. And their fruit didn't fall far from the tree. 45 years later, their son would embark on a voyage of his own, a quiet but deliberate voyage, one that elevated those around him, people, an industry, a city. It was a voyage that would lead Robert Wilmers to the summit of American finance. We now begin a new voyage, a maiden voyage, the voyage of the Robert G. Wilmers Integrity Prize. Our purpose is simple: to find, encourage, and reward remarkable people doing remarkable things. People with the courage to venture alone. People with the capacity to drive change. People with the fortitude to do what's right, even if it comes at the expense of their own prosperity. That is the story of the Robert G. Wilmers Integrity Prize.
Thank you, Jessica. So this year marks the maiden voyage of the Robert G. Wilmers Integrity Prize. On any maiden voyage, there are many unknowns. Where are we going? How will we get there? What perils will we encounter along the way? And we don't know the answers to those questions, but we do know the answer to the most important question of all. We know this is a worthy voyage. We know this is a virtuous endeavor. And we know that because Mr. Wilmers' legacy is one that deserves to be amplified. It is fair to say, as the video notes, that Mr. Wilmers climbed to the summit of American finance. He turned a small, struggling bank based in Buffalo, New York, a city that itself was struggling, into one of the largest and most respected financial institutions in the country. How did he do this? Well, if you reduce the answer to its purest form, he did so by proving that a bank can simultaneously grow and create value. That's like threading a needle in the middle of a sandstorm. And he created value for everyone: shareholders, employees, customers. He wrote an exquisite letter every year for everyone in finance to learn from. And as anyone who's been to downtown Buffalo over the past 20 years can attest, the bank he built serves as the foundation for what was once the 8th largest city in the United States. That's what this prize is all about. It's about recognizing and rewarding people who are helping communities that need help. And I will tell you that the inaugural winners of the Wilmers Integrity Prize embody everything about that. We have a wonderful group of speakers today. We have one of Mr. Wilmers' finest contemporaries. We have someone who's fighting on the front lines for racial and economic equality. We have a world-renowned musician. We have Mr. Wilmers' successor. And of course, we have both of our winners. Together with all of you who have supported the prize, our donors, our board, our selection committee, our advisory board, the amazing people at M&T Bank who have done so much to make this come to life, this is a very special group of people. So thank you on behalf of the prize and on behalf of the Wilmers family. Our first speaker tonight is Richard Davis. Richard was a friend of Mr. Wilmers. And as the former chairman and CEO of US Bancorp, he was also one of Mr. Wilmers' most admired contemporaries. And today, just perfectly embodying everything that the prize stands for, Richard is CEO of Make-A-Wish America. I'll turn it over to you, Richard.
Thank you, John, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for this amazing privilege. And John, thank you for giving me this opportunity to recognize Bob and these wonderful winners today. As John said, I was in banking for most of my life, and my entire time as the CEO of US Bank, which is a mere 11 years inside the window of Bob's remarkable tenure. I too can stand here as a witness to him being the most remarkable voice in our industry. And I mean the most remarkable voice. The video did a beautiful job of using the word remarkable many times as it relates to the Wilmers and to the Wilmers Integrity Prize. remarkable. That's something that's worth talking about. It's something worth replicating and something that inspires sustainability, which you're going to hear from today on our winners. As a peer of Bob's for all of those years, there were fewer things he represented than a voice, and a voice for others, not his own voice. He had his own voice, but he often used it to benefit others. And the infamous annual letters that John mentioned just a moment ago really were heralded as the wait for it moment every year, as we wanted to see what Bob would say, not about banking, but about the world that we live in, from the economy to the social issues to just the well-being. And he had a voice that was always intended to have reason. He wasn't too worried about being perfectly diplomatic, although he was highly discreet. He didn't want you to misunderstand what he meant. So it was very clear, but always with the intent to improve the world and under a doctrine of fairness to improve the equity in the world that we live in. I want to first thank the committee for creating this opportunity to recognize the legacy of one of America's greatest business barons. John, starting with you, taking on the mantle to lead this wonderful maiden voyage. Elizabeth, Renee, Raj, good friend of mine, someone you hear from in a moment. M&T Bank for letting this be one of the many things you continue to let this organization stand for, because banks at the end of the day are the community center, and you're allowing that to happen today. But mostly legacy. I would only imagine that Bob would probably love and hate this at the same time, love the idea of bringing to bear this focus on people who are changing the world, and hating the fact that we gave him any more applaud than we will today. Every bit of it deserve it. So the prize itself is to highlight something and to celebrate it, to make it remarkable. Our winners today and the finalists should be remarkably proud of themselves, because everything you're doing is incredible, but it stands out, and it causes us to want to put a finger on it, put a highlight on it, and celebrate you and the work you're doing. When I left the bank 3 years ago to run Make-A-Wish America, I learned a number of things, but the first I want to share with you is that not-for-profits are the fabric of the community. If you think of a big piece of fabric, a quilt, if you will, the stitching, often invisible in fact, the stitching itself is what not-for-profits are. The whole community would fall apart without it. You'll hear from two winners today who are doing remarkable things that if no one else did, the community wouldn't be as strong as it will be, and more importantly, into the future. I often think that not-for-profits are the voice of dignity and support for others, and today you will hear that many, many times over. And as I close, I want to make sure you know the winners today are represented for the organizations they founded, but we're representing them individually for this remarkable work that they are leading. We're also not recognizing them just for what they did yesterday or even what they're doing today. The committee was positioned to determine what they're doing is sustainable, repeatable, and long-lived. And so it's about the future that hasn't happened yet as well. Our finalists were in the fields of education, wellness, and social services. The committee found the finalists from this amazing group of other wonderful individuals, because the people you're going to meet today were able to voice what they do, describe its impact, and help us believe that the world will be better now and in the future because of them. So you see, we're celebrating their work, we're celebrating their character, and we're celebrating their impacts. And it's not the what we celebrate today, it's the why and the meaning. So Robert G. Wilmers, so many things to say about Bob, but I'm going to use voice as my favorite word. A voice of reason, a voice, many of you are too young, but there's an old E.F. Hutton phrase that when they spoke, everyone listened. And when Bob spoke, soft-spoken as it might be, you leaned in because you knew you were about to learn something and it was going to matter. So there's a parable that says, teach a person to fish. And in doing so, you're leaving behind not only the education, but the incentive and the motive and the permissions to change the world through your voice and then through your actions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the maiden voyage of this remarkable man, this remarkable integrity prize. And indeed, you're in for quite a treat this evening as we celebrate not only the two winners, we celebrate those who brought this to us, and let's celebrate Bob again and again and again. So John, thank you for this opportunity. I can't wait to hear from our finalists and these wonderful people you brought to us tonight.
Thank you very much, Richard. Our next speaker is Ebony Thomas. Ebony leads Bank of America's billion-dollar initiative to promote racial and economic equality. She also, as I've learned, radiates an infectious passion and determination to drive change and to do the right thing. I've interviewed and written about Ebony in the past, and it is an experience that I have treasured ever since. I'll turn it over to you, Ebony.
Thank you so much, John. I'm always humbled when you ask me and when you describe my passion. It is that indeed very passionate. And so I am, number one, humbled and thrilled to be here tonight. And I love the word remarkable. And I think Richard just did an amazing job of summing up many of the finalists tonight, but using the word remarkable in such a beautiful way. And the way, and the word that I will use tonight will really be about resilience. So with that, thank you for having me. So as a quick introduction, I'm Ebony Thomas, and I lead Bank of America's racial equality and economic opportunity strategy. And that work is represented through our $1.25 billion commitment to Black and Hispanic, Latino communities and people of color. At Bank of America, we recognize that issues of racial equality and economic opportunity are deeply connected. Where there are racial injustices, there's often a lack of economic mobility and vice versa. That's why we announced our $1.25 billion 5-year initiative to help communities of color and advance racial equality and economic opportunity. Honestly, this was work that was already underway. So we're just building on work that was deeply rooted in our community. We're invested in health and healthcare, job creating, reskilling the workforce, and supporting small businesses and affordable housing, because these are the areas where systemic long-term gaps have existed and where significant change is required for sustained progress. So I come here tonight as a representative of those communities we serve, where I live, the community that has shaped me, and how I show up. I understand that these communities have long been uninvested in, yet are resilient and have achieved greatness and excellence in spite of generational and historical barriers, similar to many of our finalists here tonight. So this evening, I want to spend a few minutes giving you my thoughts on resilience and discovering your why. Resilience is our ability to bounce back from life's challenges and unforeseen difficulties. It's the space in which we measure our ability and speed to recover, and every single one of tonight's honorees have displayed a phenomenal amount of resilience. Their ability to see a barrier as a simple mirage in the desert sand designed as a deterrent is a conscious decision they made to not live in just the vision of what they could see. Yasmin, Josh, Veronica, Renee, Heather are all at the intersection of where resilience, integrity, empathy, purpose, passion meets their why. Somewhere along the way, they discovered their why, and in that discovery, they created platforms that make us and the world a better place. I found my why when I was a public educator. I became what I saw, and what I saw every day were teachers that believed in me, and the ones that held me the most accountable often looked like me. I wanted to be that person for a student coming through the public education system. But it was in that system that I discovered that my impact, quite honestly, could be felt in a very different and a greater capacity. And although it's been many years and many roles since I was in a classroom, I now have a platform similar to our finalists to make meaningful change. To influence prison reform as a sister of 2 formerly incarcerated siblings. I have the opportunity to move the needle on healthcare. My grandmother died of breast cancer a few months into her Medicaid coverage because for the most of her unadult life, she was uninsured. And so now I have the opportunity to fund and support true health equity initiatives. Health is fundamental to every aspect of a person's and community's success, and investments in health are a necessity in order to move communities forward. I have the ability to drive initiatives that fund businesses and communities that create ecosystems for job growth, reskilling, and economic opportunity. My work is my why. So this evening, we honor each of our finalists that found their why. Jasmine, the Washington, D.C. natives whose vision of providing financial assistance and a support ecosystem for children of incarcerated or formerly incarcerated parents give rise to scholarships. And Joshua, the founder and CEO of About Fresh, a vision-driven organization dedicated to health equity by closing the gaps to healthy, accessible food in communities chronically left behind. We celebrate Veronica, who in the shadows of the financial crisis leveraged her creative talents to start the Empowerment Plan, an org that distributes thousands of sleeping bag coats to communities around the country while creating jobs to help break the barriers and cycles of homelessness. Tonight, we recognize the excellence of Renee, a public servant who's dedicated her life to supporting children and families, but it's her work with Midnight Golf that will usher in the next generation of leaders locally, nationally, and globally. We round out our impressive group of honorees this evening with Heather. With nonprofit genes running through her veins, and on her journey to be authentic and unapologetically Heather, she founded Kashid Wellness, breaking the barriers to affordable mental health services for communities across the country. This will certainly sound cliche-ish, as I know, but you're all winners and you're all truly remarkable. I will leave you with a final thought that resilience is not only about the things that happen to you, it's also about our resolve to choose and stick with the choice and go through the things that you've signed up for. You all have signed up to be remarkable, and you are resilient in your effort to change the world. Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you for having me, John.
Thank you, Ebony. Our next speaker who will announce this year's winners is Yo-Yo Ma, who's a member of our selection committee. So in addition, of course, to being a world-renowned musician and a friend of Mr. Wilmers, Yo-Yo is blessed with that rare ability to make people feel genuinely special. And as with all the members of our selection committee, he's been a huge asset to this prize. So I'll turn it over to Yo-Yo, who will then be immediately followed by remarks from our prize winners. Yo-Yo?
Thank you, John. Thank you for introducing me. I just want to say that I'm now the last person standing between you and meeting the winners of the Integrity Prize today. And but I would like to say two things about Bob Wilmers, and adding to the words remarkable and resilience. And I think it is about gift and love. Because one thing that I've learned through my friendship with Bob Wilmers is how much he loved life, how much he loved his family, how much he loves Elizabeth, and really how he turned everything around him into some form of gift. Now, I'm going to share one thing with you that probably nobody knows, is that he learned to play the cello, and he learned something he really wanted to learn, which is that's the Marseillaise, which is the French national anthem. He loved France, but he turned everything into a gift. So into this. Everything turned into a gift with his love of life and his sense of humor. And on top of that is the integrity. So on behalf of the selection committee, it is such an honor that I've been given to announce the winners of this year's award, the very first Robert G. Wilmers Integrity Prize. Now, choosing a winner was not easy. It's probably why we chose two, because every candidate for this year's prize is doing important, inspiring work. They're rewriting school curriculums, giving computers to low-income households, helping at-risk kids go to college, bringing healthy food into underserved communities, just to name a few. It takes courage, ingenuity, and of course, integrity to tackle problems like these. This year's winners exhibited all of these traits. One provides mental health service to underinsured people at half the typical rate. Her organization conducted over 5,000 therapy sessions last year, a third of which were free to workers in the restaurant industry, and it grew during the pandemic. Our other winner designed and manufactures a coat that doubles as a sleeping bag for the homeless. She also hires people from homeless shelters to sew the coats, creating more than 90 jobs by doing so. Also, her organization grew during the pandemic. It takes different people playing different roles for society to function, but roles like these are hardest to fill because they require one put others' interests before their own. That's what integrity is all about. So, on behalf of the selection committee, I am pleased to announce that the winners of the 2021 Wilmers Prize are Heather Lundy, the founder and CEO of Cassette Wellness, and Veronica Scott, the founder and CEO of Empowerment Plan. And now, without further ado, let me pass it on to Heather. Congratulations to the winners. Congratulations to all.
Thank you so much. Never in my life did I imagine that I would be ushered into this space by such a legacy of role models and the cello of Yo-Yo Ma. Thank you so much. What an honor. I do want to briefly thank my mentors, the people who have gone before me, the people who believed in the visions that I had before they were a reality. And also the legacy of people like my queer family that paved the way for someone like me to be in the position that I am today. And I want to particularly thank those who call me boss that are present on the call. It's those of us that have the honor of these visions, getting to see people believe in what we see enough to lean into the unknown with us and do this work. I believe that integrity is the future of innovation. I think it's where we're headed as a society. We need entrepreneurs and founders who create from a place of resilience and from a place of character to create the kind of companies that our world needs as we look ahead. And I've often treasured looking back at ancient wisdom for truths that we can lean on as we look ahead to innovate. And I will always remember when I was studying ancient Greek in college, learning that the word economy comes from two ancient Greek words, oikos, which means house, and nomos, which means to manage. And I believe that it is the gift of founders to create companies that help the household of all of us thrive. And I believe that's what economics is ultimately all about. Founders aren't here for the glory. We're here to give a gift. And it's such a joy to have the honor of participating in the legacy of Robert Wilmers in that spirit. And I also count it the joy of my life to be a participant with other founders who are also creating companies so that the household of all of us can thrive, because that's what it's all about. As a founder, I receive investments and turn those investments into abundance. And I promise to do the same with your investment in me. And I just want you to know that this prize is priceless to me. Thank you so much.
That was incredible. It's very hard to follow, and I agree with Heather, especially to be ushered in by Yo-Yo Ma playing the cello as a child who played the cello in Dead Last Chair as a child. It is an incredible moment and brings a lot of joy to me. And to start off by just saying thank you to be included with all of the individuals that were mentioned tonight as far as the work that they do and other honorees is a huge gift. So incredibly grateful to everyone on this call and everyone watching, and especially to my Empowerment Plan team that some are listening, but also some at home, just saying thank you to them. And, you know, work that I do does not exist without them. I cannot continue the work that we do at Empowerment Plan without the individuals that we employ. So my name is Veronica Scott, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Empowerment Plan, which is a nonprofit organization really focused on ending the generational cycle of homelessness and poverty through employment. And we do that by making these coats that turn into sleeping bags that we give out globally to those in need, and focus on hiring the individuals that would need it in the first place. And I really started this from a place thinking that I couldn't do this. I wasn't able to do this because I grew up in a situation of poverty myself. Both of my parents struggled with homelessness and addiction. And I am really here today because I was looked at as a worthless extension of my family, doomed to repeat that life of poverty and struggle. And I dedicate my life to proving that homelessness and poverty defines no one. And it was this class project in college that really changed the trajectory of my whole life. And it began almost 10 years ago now. And it is wild to think about how we have grown from, you know, a class project in college where I spent 3 days a week, every week in a local shelter, where it was a woman, one woman that turned what could have just been a class project that turned into nothing into what it is now and into an organization. And that was a woman that had been displaced for years. And I had been working on and designing a coat, and she came up to me and she was furious. She said, "Look, I don't need a jacket. I need a job. What you're doing is pointless." And she made me realize in that moment that a coat is a Band-Aid for a systemic issue. And what really has the impact is hiring those that would need the coat in the first place. And I think as we talk about integrity and as we talk about this work that everyone is doing here, I think to me, integrity means to own who I am and the experiences I had growing up in poverty, but also to listen to those others speak their truths and speak from experience and actually listen to them and help them build it with me and help craft what it is. And using that thing that I was so scared to talk about growing up in poverty and homelessness and use it as something to help others. And I think that is what you hear from everyone on this call today. And it was because of that woman, that one day, Michelle was her name, that we have grown from designing a coat and making a couple coats in my grandparents' basement into now an organization that has produced over 50,000 coats. And we have distributed them across 24 different countries and across the entire US. And we've impacted over 100 different families across the city of Detroit. And this last year has been incredibly hard for everyone, and particularly the individuals that we serve with the domestic violence and struggle there. But the demand for the work that we do has grown in an astronomical way. So this prize is huge for many reasons. To be on a stage with everyone here is an incredible honor, but also that investment in the work will go a very long way to supporting not only the individuals displaced around the globe, but the individuals and the families and the people that we employ here in Detroit. So thank you.
Thank you, Yo-Yo, Heather, and Veronica, and congratulations to both of you, Heather and Veronica. You know, as somebody who's like spent time thinking about you and researching the two of you, it's just been such a remarkable privilege for me personally. So our last speaker is Renee Jones, who will offer closing remarks. And as many of you probably know, Renee is Bob's successor at M&T Bank. He's also a co-founder of the Wilmers Integrity Prize, a board member, and a member of the selection committee. And he also happens to have one of the sharpest philosophical minds in all of banking. And thanks, I like to think, probably appropriately for this situation, that's due in no small part to all the years that he spent with Bob Wilmers. So I'll leave it to you, Renee.
John, thanks so much. And I have to thank you for all the work that you've done to make today possible. Just tremendous job. And a thank you to Richard, Ebony, and Yo-Yo. Your comments are remarkable in the way that they capture the spirit of Bob. And I often think about all the wonderful things that Bob gave to us all, but probably the best part was he handed down something that was really enduring, and you all captured that today. Veronica, Heather, thank you, and congratulations on your well-deserved recognition. Really remarkable work that you're doing. 3 years ago, when the idea to create a prize in Bob's name was first proposed, it was kind of hard to imagine exactly how it would take shape. We talked about focusing on a specific area like education, which of course meant so much to Bob. We talked about eligibility and selection criteria. We talked about whether the award should be given to an individual or to an organization. And we actually even discussed the meaning of integrity itself. But ultimately, we chose to channel Bob by focusing on a decisively simple task, really to find and reward people doing innovative and selfless work in their communities. So we sought to find people who lived with purpose and whose mission it was to make a difference in other people's lives. It's a phrase that we talk about a lot here at M&T, making a difference in other people's lives. And beyond doing remarkable things, as Richard mentioned, we wanted to recognize people for how those great things were being accomplished. Again, looking to Bob as the example, we chose to recognize people who acted with integrity. So this award not only honors the legacy of Bob Wilmers, but it extends it. As we've seen tonight, this recognition highlights and celebrates people like Veronica and Heather, who act with integrity, affect change, and make a difference in their communities. Today, I think we can actually say with great confidence that our inaugural launch has been a success, and quite possibly maybe it's been a double success. Yo-Yo talked about why Heather and Veronica were picked as this year's winners. Let me just add that we couldn't be prouder of both of them. Yet, the greatest compliment one can give to another is to learn from them, to amplify their passion and creativity, to use their stories to improve ourselves. So what can we learn from Heather and Veronica? We learn that where you start doesn't dictate where you end. Neither grew up in the lap of luxury. Both had to forge their own paths, often against great adversity. We learned that creativity, curiosity, and beliefs are essential to success as capital and connections. Heather makes mental health services affordable by eliminating the expense of physical space. Veronica manufactures coats for the homeless, and by doing so, manufactures jobs for them too. And we learn that great achievements are built on courage to take risk and the selflessness to sacrifice. Veronica and Heather could have done anything they wanted to do, but they chose to pursue lives of service, not to be in service of others, not themselves. And that's why that's what the Wilmers Integrity Prize is all about. Before we wrap it up, let me make one last point that I think is important. In Bob's book, there was always more work to do. And as such, this is the beginning of a story, not the end. There's more to learn, there's more people to meet, there's more to accomplish. That philosophy of being in the service of others and making a difference in people's lives to improve the world around us has been a guiding light for me. So I offer you, let's keep working together to make a difference in people's lives. And let me end by saying thank you to our donors, members of our selection committee and advisory board, the speakers and all the attendees today, and everyone else who supported the Wilmers Integrity Prize over these last few years. And a special thank you to Elizabeth Wilmers and Chris Wilmers. I hope you both see that Bob is very much alive in the hearts of those who knew him, and that we are committed to furthering his incredible legacy. It's been an honor to launch this prize on its maiden voyage, and we really look forward to many, many more in the years to come. Thank you all for attending. Congratulations again to Veronica and Heather. And John, again, thank you for your wonderful efforts to make this all possible.
Thank you, Renee. And so that will end the session for tonight. Thank you all for attending. Have a nice evening.